One of the greatest mismatches in World Cup history just happened. And somehow, it was more interesting than it sounds. Germany, four-time world champions, one of the most decorated footballing nations on the planet. On the other side, Curaçao, a Caribbean island so small that literally half its population could fit inside the stadium where the final will be played. This was supposed to be a formality, and for most of it, it was. But here's what nobody is talking about. Buried inside a 7-1 demolition is one of the most remarkable underdog stories the World Cup has ever seen. Stick around. This will be quick. First, let's talk about who Curaçao actually is, because if you've never heard of them before, you're not alone. Curaçao is a Caribbean island with a population of around 156,000 people. Michael, that's not a city. That's barely a suburb. And yet, they now hold the record as the smallest nation ever to qualify for a FIFA World Cup, surpassing Iceland. Michael, Iceland, who famously knocked England out of the Euros in 2016, had over 350,000 people when they qualified. Curaçao has less than half that. Let that sink in. Here's where it gets interesting. How does a tiny Caribbean island even build a football team? Simple. They borrowed one. Curaçao is a constituent country within the Kingdom of the Netherlands, and the national team has benefited from a FIFA rule change that allows them to select players who previously represented the Netherlands at youth level. 4-4-2. So essentially, 25 of their 26 players were born and raised in the Netherlands. Michael. They're Dutch players who chose to represent a Caribbean island instead. Genius? Technically cheating? No, completely legal. Just very, very clever. Now let's talk about the actual game. Germany, Houston Stadium, June 14th. Kai Havertz scored 2 goals as Germany pulled away from World Cup first-timer Curaçao late in the opening half and piled on after that in a 7-1 win. ESPN. Felix and Mecha opened the scoring after just 6 minutes. Germany pressed. Germany dominated. Germany looked like Germany. Everything going to plan. And then, Curaçao did something nobody expected. Livano Comenencia scored to level the clash and in the process saw Curaçao score their first ever World Cup goal. ESPN. 1-1. On the biggest stage in football, in their very first World Cup game. Ever. The stadium went slightly insane. The internet went slightly more insane. In theory, that equalizer was just a consolation. In practice, it was history. After that, Germany remembered they had a job to do. Nico Schlotterbeck, Havertz with a penalty, Musiala, Nathaniel Brown, Undav, and Havertz again, FIFA. Goals kept coming like an assembly line. Final score, 7-1. Germany did what Germany does. But here's the real story. Germany came into this tournament having failed to make it out of the group stages in each of the last 2 tournaments. ESPN. Back-to-back embarrassments. And Curaçao? They went unbeaten through their entire CONCACAF qualifying campaign, Michael, to earn this moment. A 7-1 loss might look like failure. But for Curaçao, just being here is the victory. So we started with a mismatch. And it was a mismatch. Germany won 7-1, and honestly, it could have been more. But Curaçao scored their first ever World Cup goal, made their first ever World Cup appearance, and proved that a nation of 156,000 people can stand on the same pitch as one of the greatest teams on earth. The scoreline says Germany dominated. The history books say something different entirely. And now, the question worth asking, can Curaçao find a way to get a result against Ecuador or Ivory Coast? because pulling off one upset would make this story legendary. If you want more World Cup breakdowns like this one every day, subscribe. It takes 2 seconds, and I promise it's worth it.